My name is Frank Dalton. I was 65 when this happened, and that weekend in Cincinnati, I learned there are things you only find out when love runs up against the line. My daughter, Emily, ran my card at a bridal shop without asking. It wasn't just a scare. It was 3 swipes and 1 extra service that cranked my jaw tight. With fees, the statement landed at just under $6,800. And I did something a lot of folks thought unthinkable. I revoked the charge with the bank, had the bill reissued in her name, and sent it straight to the groom, Mr. Disruption, with a deadline of noon to release the dress. You read that right. I took the bill, put the right zip code on it, and walked it to his door. The night before, he'd raised a glass of IPA and, laughing, said, "To the father-in-law bankrolling the princess." In my ear, that toast sounded like a smoke alarm. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to flip the table. I was going to handle it the way I learned in 39 years carrying mail. Right address, right time, signature from the one who owes. And there's more. When the store manager Janelle printed the reissued invoice with Emily's name, and in the alternate contact field, Tyler's, I asked her to add a clear note. Mr. Dalton's card revoked by the cardholder, just so nobody confused a limit with poetic license. Little did they know that sheet of paper, stapled into a manila envelope, was about to turn into a public lesson. If you've felt that mix of love and exasperation that hits when a child mistakes generosity for a blank check, stay with me. What came next was ugly for a few minutes, beautiful for many hours, and useful for a lifetime. And yes, I promised payback, but the only payback that matters is the kind that puts everything back where it belongs, without stooping. I've lived my whole life in Cincinnati, knowing every street like my own hallway. I was a mail carrier for almost 4 decades. Rain that soaks the soul, sticky snow, summer that melts asphalt, and patience. I went through it all with a steel routine. Head out early, check the sacks, sort. Hear the gates groan, know the dog by its bark. Know the lady by the vanilla candle drifting from her hall. Right address, time respected. Mail delivered without delay, respect intact. That got into my body as habit and became the way I love. With care, with honor, with a deadline. My life wasn't a soap opera. I married Karen, a nurse with hands that save and a heart that tries to save what shouldn't be saved. We had Emily, who arrived in a hurry, learned to talk before she learned to count. Always good with words and, from early on, terrible with boundaries that weren't on paper. Karen, with Emily, gave more than she needed to. I played the counterweight, sometimes in silence, jotting the yeses and the nos in my scuffed cover blue notebook. That notebook. I keep it. It's my file of promises and lines. After the marriage ended, no theatrical brawl, nobody sleeping on the sidewalk. I met Nora, a retired teacher, a voice that settles a room and an eye that shrinks big things down to size. When Emily at 27 announced the wedding, it was on a Sunday in April that smelled like cut grass. Gramercy and Vine, Reading Road, tall windows, late light resting in the glasses. I listened to their plan with phrases like classic but modern, aloft and over the Rhine, disruptive logistics, and the best for the bride. And I did what fit my wallet and my love. Sweetheart, my gift is $2,500. I'll cover what you need within that. The rest is on you two. It was over the phone. Her voice came soft, warm as a lit candle. Of course, Dad, thank you. That'll help a lot. I breathed, half relieved, half wary, and wrote in the blue notebook on the June page, Emily's wedding. Gift, $2,500. Limit. I underlined limit twice. It wasn't coldness. It was a hug with a backbone. I knew Tyler. Logistics sales, a pitch that talks more about breaking paradigms than making deadlines. He lives in an exposed brick loft on Race Street with a stovetop mocha pot that's more charm than coffee, a bicycle hung on the wall, a rug that looks like a traffic map. He called me Big Father-in-Law the first time, and I said, Frank is fine, because I don't like nicknames that try to skip past intimacy. I got used to their playlist, talk about tradition, you only do this once, and the family pitches in. I agree with almost all of it, as long as tradition isn't a free pass to blow up someone else's card. In the days before the jolt, I was out on Beachmont Avenue trimming the lawn. The mower buzzed in my palm, a light gasoline smell, the sun pushing through the magnolia leaves. Nora brought a glass of ice water and said, "Don't forget your cap." I laughed, set it on crooked. It's always crooked, and thought about the toast I'd give. Short, a joke about the post office, and a reminder about partnership. I was excited. Maybe it was the joy of seeing my girl in white, even if her white came with pricey lace and hashtags. I remember when Emily was little and I brought her a letter. Her first sign-up for the school reading club. It smelled like new paper and glue. I sat on the leather couch that creaked like an old friend and said, "Em, when we sign, we follow through." She nodded with that serious kid look. I've kept that look in my pocket ever since. That's why it hurt when, years later, I saw signatures she figured I'd make for her, without asking. The bank alert buzzed in my pocket a little past mid-afternoon, on a sunny day that looked painted. Lace and fern bridle, just under $5,000. I killed the mower. The engine coughed and died like a tired dog, and stared at the phone glowing in my hand. A minute later, another ping. Lace and fern bridle, almost 400. I leaned against the tree and counted to 5. Breathed. The third came later. Lace and fern bridle, close to 700. Alterations. The fourth was the Polish on the insult. 200 and change. Rush pressing. I added it up on a postal slip I had in my pocket. Just under $5,000, plus almost 400, plus close to 700, plus a couple hundred more. Before tax, a little over 6,200. With fees just under 6,800. The kind of number that hurts because it isn't round, like a cut that splits just past the crease. I texted, "Em, did you use my card?" She came back fast with that LOL she uses when she wants to sand off the edge. "Dad, relax. It's the dress. It's tradition for the dad to pay. You've got miles, points. We'll give you a token reimbursement later, LOL. Tyler wants the best for me that day." Tradition. The word hit like an empty can tossed out the window of the car ahead of me. I sat on the porch step and watched the street. My neighbor walking by with the brown lab that always tries to climb my lawn. I called. She didn't pick up. She sent a short voice note. "I'm in a fitting. I'll call you later. Don't kill the vibe, please." And a photo, her from the back in a fitting room with warm lights that made skin look fine. A veil falling like water, 2 friends clapping. I felt 2 things at once. The beauty of my daughter in a once-only moment, and the weight of a disrespect that tightens the jaw and sits on the shoulders. Nora and I had planned dinner at Nicholson's pub downtown. I decided not to walk back my word. We got there, and they were already seated. Karen next to Emily, and Tyler with a "I fix everything with one swipe" smile. Beer in the air, old wood, a Springsteen anthem leaking from the jukebox. Tyler raised his glass. "To the father-in-law bankrolling the princess." "Thanks, Frank." The table laughed. I half smiled and said, "Calm. My gift has a ceiling." He cocked his head, teasing, "Ah, come on, Frank. Bump your card limit. You can square it with the bank. You only live once." I'm not a scene maker. I don't send plates back or slam silverware. Karen looked at me, asking with her eyes, "Don't wreck the night." I said what fit the room. "Folks, I've already said what I can give. The rest is up to you two." Emily rolled her eyes with that blend of love and impatience you learn to read when you raise a kid. I breathed. Right then, I decided I wasn't going to raise my voice. I was going to raise the bill. I went home and took my corner of the couch. The lamp threw a warm pool of light. The leather hugged me, and I opened the blue notebook. Under Emily's wedding, gift, $2,500 limit, I wrote. Dress, about $6,800, not authorized. I used blue ink. I don't like red for family. The next morning, just after coffee, I went to Lace and Fern Bridal. Exposed brick, a cursive neon yes to the dress, the smell of fabric and cheap bubbly, girls padding around in socks, sighing at lace. I asked for the manager. Out came Janelle Ruiz, early 30s, polished, all business. I laid down the printed statement, my card on top, and spoke low to spare my daughter in her absence. I'm Frank Dalton. These charges are on my card and they weren't authorized by me. I set a limit with my daughter. I want to handle this cleanly. Janelle listened. Steady eyes, a beat of silence before the script with a human touch. Mr. Dalton, our policy is clear. We only release address when the balance is paid. If you, as the cardholder, revoke the authorization, we cancel the transactions and reissue the bill to the buyer responsible. In this case, your daughter. Until then, the dress doesn't leave. You have the right to dispute with your bank. We'll cooperate. I signed a form, case DF 1172. Revocation of card authorization. Janelle printed a reissued invoice showing a balance of about $6,800. Under responsible for payment, Emily. Under alternate contact, I asked her to put Tyler Mason. Janelle raised an eyebrow. Is it common to involve the groom? I said. He toasted my card in public. He'll enjoy being part of the payment. I left to the sound of hangers squeaking through gowns. Then I stopped by the bank, branch on Columbia Parkway. The teller, Marcus, white shirt wrinkled the way it gets when you've heard it all, delivered the manual line with a person's voice. You have a temporary credit for just under $6,800 while we investigate. If it's confirmed the cardholder didn't authorize it, the credit will stick. Keep the case number, a 91-433. I kept it. I keep everything. Back home at the old wood table with the ring marks, I wrote 2 letters. The first to Tyler at the Race Street loft. Subject, obligation to reimburse, wedding dress about $6,800. Tyler, as previously agreed with Emily, wedding gift capped at $2,500. And given the unauthorized use of my card for the dress, the invoice has been reissued to you two. The dress will only be released with full payment by Saturday at noon. If you like, my gift of $2,500 will be given as a credit after proper payment. No payment, no pickup. Sincerely, Frank, the dad who delivers to the right address. The second was for Emily. Less dry, more firm. I love you. The limit stands. Learn to respect the people who love you. The shop's been instructed not to release the dress without payment. I'll be at the rehearsal. We can talk. I booked a bike courier from Queen City Rush. Asked for a receipt. My mailman years trained me not to trust I never saw it. I set up an email auto-send with the PDF of the reissued invoice and the subject line, to release the dress, payer, the groom. I wasn't declaring war. I was just fixing the number on the house. Late that afternoon, one of Karen's aunts called. Frank, Emily is upset. This is over the top. I said, over the top is charging a card after being told there was a limit. She hung up a little offended. In the family group chat, someone lobbed a vague shot. Some dads love making a scene. I breathed. Little did they know that when I make up my mind, I forward messages to the right recipient. And yes, that vague shot would find its drawer too. The day before the wedding arrived. The rehearsal was at the Monastery Event Center up on Mount Adams, stained glass that paints the floor different colors as the sun moves. I went with Nora. Charcoal blazer, shined shoes, head asking for calm, and a body ready for a fight I didn't want. Emily hurried over, smile pulled tight. Dad, seriously, you froze my dress? I answered low. We didn't freeze anything, honey. I just returned the bill to the host of the party. My gift is still $2,500. Tyler pays for the dress. I hand you a check on Sunday. She narrowed her eyes. You're being petty. I looked at the window glass glowing an impossible blue and said without theatrics, I'm teaching a dress and deadline. Tyler leaned on the Gothic arch, trying to stand taller than the church. Man, this is humiliating. You're going to be the talk of the wedding. I kept my voice level. I'd rather be talked about for having boundaries than be invisible while paying the bill. Saturday, just before noon, at Lace and Fern, they'll ask you for a card. It's simple. His mother Barbara, hair that doesn't move in the wind, pearls the size of green grapes, arrived. In our family, The father of the bride always covers the dress. I answered with the manners Nora lends me. In my family, the father of the bride covers what he agreed to. Father Michael the officiant liked me because I answered on cue without needing repeats. We ran the rehearsal, everyone walking, stop and back, bridesmaids trying not to trip, groomsmen laughing too loud, but the air had a hum. Things were set, and I'd already built the last safeguards. On the way home, my phone pinged, a message from Janelle. Pickup window confirmed for the dress. Saturday late morning up to noon. Balance, about $6,800. Release only after payment. I forwarded it to Emily and Tyler. 2 check marks, no text. I knew they'd try calling the next morning, bargaining for a rescue. I decided that before I picked up, I'd watch kids playing in the Washington Park fountains just to remember what matters. That night, I sat with my blue notebook. Under limit, I wrote, Saturday, bring the envelope. Check for $2,500 plus a copy of the April agreement. On the other side, I drafted a slice of the toast I hoped to give. Being a man in a family is paying what's yours and protecting what isn't. Nora came in with chamomile tea, rested her head on my shoulder. You're right, Frank. Right hurts when it cuts a habit. I laughed, tired. I remembered real bills that squeezed me before. A water heater that breathed its last, $800 and change. The property tax that landed just shy of $2,000. Once I covered a rental deposit for Emily back when she shared a place with 2 friends, a little over $2,800. I'm not tight-fisted. I just know the price of what's mine and what isn't. As I capped the pen, a social notification buzzed. I didn't open it. Word was Barbara had posted something about traditional values under attack. Maybe. If someone wants a stage, they can pay for the ticket. I bought my piece by staying out of that theater. What I didn't know was that the next morning the most public scene was going to unfold at a shop counter, with a garment steamer hissing and a manila envelope that felt like a verdict. I woke up early like always. Black coffee so bitter you could taste it before it hit your lip. Toast with butter, Nora saying, "Come back with your head high." In the blue notebook, one line, "Today Emily gets married and learns the word boundary in the language of love." I left the house lighter than I expected. A little past mid-morning, my phone started dancing on the table. Emily calling. I didn't pick up. Tyler calling. I didn't pick up. Mom calling. Not that either. I sat on a bench in Washington Park, listened to kids shriek through the fountains, smelled damp grass and cart hot dogs. I didn't want to fight on the sidewalk outside Lace and Fern. I wanted a solution. A text came in. "They won't release it. They're asking for your card. This is abuse. Pick up, Dad." Right after, a photo of the sign. Balance due, about $6,800. Mr. Dalton's card revoked by the cardholder. I'm not the type to smile at irony, but I caught myself smiling at a job done right. I answered when the phone buzzed again. "Dad, please, Janelle is here. She won't release it. Hair is soon, the salon starts mid-afternoon." I said, "You've got a groom, don't you?" Tyler came on, sour. "Frank, this is ridiculous. Give me your card and we'll settle up later." I answered with no frills. "No, you use your card and then I keep my promise. A check for $2,500 as my gift." The silence on the other end had a sound. You can hear pride crack. When I walked into Lace and Fern, the air was tight, like the room forgot how to breathe. Bridesmaids in patterned robes were whispering like sparrows on a wire. Emily wore a white robe with her name stitched on it. Eyes red and beautiful, and that's what makes it worse. You love even while you're correcting. Janelle gave me a brisk nod. "Mr. Dalton, everyone here understands the procedure." I nodded back. Tyler's jaw was locked, his wallet clenched like a weapon. He looked at me like I was the gate agent who denied a prince his visa. "Fine, Frank. You want me to pay? I'll pay. But this looks bad." I said, "It looks better than taking money from someone who said he wasn't giving it. Pay, and we turn the page." I heard nervous giggles from a corner. Funny how justice, when it finally shows up, embarrasses people who are used to favors. He pulled out an Amex that flashed like an ad. Janelle ran it, typed, breathed, checked the screen, and gave a neutral smile. "Approved." She stapled the receipt to the packet, signed the release, and called for the dress, which came down the stairs like a cloud. Emily held that fabric with the kind of care you only learn holding a sleeping baby. Tears rose in me, and I told them to go back where they came from. There was one more signature to make. I handed Tyler a manila envelope. "Here's my gift, as promised." He opened it. A check for $2,500, and tucked in a copy of the budget agreement, father's gift, limit $2,500, with my signature and the April note. He looked at the paper, looked at me, and the fight between his bruised pride and a smaller living part of him played out in front of everyone. Okay, I stepped in close. "Tyler, being a man in a family is paying what's yours and protecting what isn't. That'll make you prouder than showing off." Someone, a cousin I think, murmured. He was right. I pretended not to hear. I wasn't looking for an audience. I wanted a clean finish. Emily hugged me hard, robe scratchy against my chin. "Dad, I hate you and love you at the same time." I laughed through the ache. "That's fine. Some loves come with a manual." And I left the shop walking like a guy coming off a shift where the patient woke up and asked for water. The wedding unfolded the way it should when you stop sweeping things under the rug. At the monastery, stained glass turned the floor into confetti. I walked Emily down the aisle. On her arm, I felt the lightness of what had been put back where it belongs. I whispered what my father taught me, one step at a time. She smiled with stubborn tears. Father Michael talked about the ring, patience, and forgiveness. I listened, thinking that boundaries are love too. At the reception, the Dalton table had beige napkins, eucalyptus in the center, and the kitchen sent out that butter and garlic smell. Karen touched my arm. "Thank you, Frank. It's hard, but thank you." I said, "I didn't want a war, Karen. I wanted the letter delivered to the right door." The groom's father, Gordon, showed up with a whiskey, the face of a man who always gives orders and forgets to say please. "Nice, Dalton. Making my son pay for what traditionally is yours." I didn't bite. What's nice is Emily learning that no is love too. And Gordon, tradition without respect turns into a bill with no owner. He sipped slow, looked into the glass like the ice had the missing answer. When it was time for toasts, Tyler surprised me. He lifted his glass, cleared his throat. "To my father-in-law, who reminded me that family also means picking up your tab." Nervous laughs, honest applause. "Thanks for the gift, Frank." I raised my water, ice clinking. "You're welcome. I paid cheap for that lesson." That was my public counterpunch. No yelling, no finger in faces. There was a receipt, a deadline, a signature. People learned that setting a boundary isn't being stingy. It's keeping love from turning into misuse. And yes, some thought I humiliated them. But the humiliation started earlier, long before, when someone decided my card was the extension of a dream that didn't fit their wallet. A quick aside I won't hide. A few hours before, Barbara had let slip in the family chat that certain attitudes ruin the wedding aura. I replied with a photo of the stapled receipt and the words, "Aura cleared upon payment." I was blunt, and believe it or not, she left me on scene, and that stung more than any comeback. Sometimes the silence of the losing side is the only peace available. The dance floor opened and the dress cut the room like a candle in a good wind. Emily and I danced to Landslide by Fleetwood Mac. Nora says it's a song about making peace with time. Midway through, Emily whispered, "Dad, I'm sorry I blew past the limit. I thought you'd cave." I said, "I've caved too much, Em. Today I chose not to help you be irresponsible." She cried, laughed. "I'm learning." I said, "Me too." And for a second, I knew I'd done the right thing. Next morning, early, I headed to Findlay Market. Tomatoes red enough to ache, bread crackling at the crust, people with canvas bags and impatient stories. I sat on a bench and pulled out my phone. 20-some missed calls. Emily, no caller ID, Aunt Lisa. A bank message, dispute A91 433. Charges permanently reversed. One from Janelle. "Thank you for staying calm. Congratulations on your daughter's wedding." I smiled at the flower stall. Funny how relief sometimes feels like a package delivered ahead of schedule. I sent Emily a photo, a leftover slice of cake with a fork stuck in it. Caption, "Happy day after." She replied with a heart, and "Love you, Dad." I typed "Love you too," deleted it, and sent just "Love you." Sometimes cutting a word gives the rest its strength. Later, Karen stopped by with a dish of lasagna. Nurses cook like they care. "She's okay," she said. "She knows you. Deep down, she was waiting for you to stand up." Nora brewed tea and the two of them talked plants. I went to the sideboard and opened the blue notebook. On the June page under Limit, I wrote one word: kept. In smaller letters, a note to myself: respect is an address. If you don't put the zip on it, life can't deliver. That afternoon, the mail brought a white envelope with a photo of the two of them smiling under the monastery lights. I recognized the curve of Emily's lips when she's wiped out and happy. Inside, her handwriting: "Thank you for giving me a dress and a spine." On the back, a note from Tyler: "Check deposited, lesson 2. I set it next to a photo of me in uniform, mailman cap crooked, smile the same. I felt that rare sense of mission, the kind that tidies your shelves from the inside. Early in the week, just before lunch, Barbara called. I almost didn't answer. I did. "Frank, maybe I was too harsh. In my family, things are different." I said, "In my family, we teach what we hope to harvest, and I want to harvest respect." She breathed like someone holding back tears to save her makeup. "I'm sorry." I said, "Thanks for calling." And that was that. I don't keep grudges like pets. I like a tidy house. By week's end, Emily and I grabbed coffee in Over the Rhine, a few blocks from their loft. We sat by a window letting in a big square of sun. The smell of ground beans and cinnamon doesn't buy forgiveness, but it helps the hug along. She got the words out the way only someone who wants to fix things can. "Dad, I promise next time I won't jump the agreement. I thought it was tradition. I thought you'd think it was sweet to bankroll it." I said, "Tradition is great when it's not a crutch. I like toasts, photos, a beautiful dress. But in my house, tradition and limits walk hand in hand." She laughed. "I know, now I know. I would have been happy if it ended there. But life, generous as ever, poured a little more." Tyler walked in, saw us, hesitated, then came over. "Nora says some steps define people, and that one did. Frank, I wanted to thank you. I grew up paying my way, but I don't know. This time I let the moment carry me. I wanted the best and took the wrong ramp." I said, "Everyone botches the on-ramp sometimes. What counts is the off-ramp." He nodded. "I already called my dad, told him you were right." He grumbled, but maybe he needs a few days. I laughed. "He'll get there. Some arrive by train, some by bike." We clinked paper cups in silence. In the days after, I did small things that look silly but set posts. I stuck a note on the fridge: "If you love someone, don't sign for them." I adjusted the month's budget. No more slow leak. I donated an old shirt and bought a new one, blue with quiet stripes, marking the ritual. A lot of folks told me at church on Sunday, at the market, in the line at the post office I still like to visit just to see people waiting, that I was too hard. Frank, you could have let it go. Maybe. But I learned on my walking routes that mail without a number goes back to sender. I didn't return a dress. I didn't kill a dream. I didn't shout at an altar. I just took a bill that came to me, crooked, and sent it to the person who decided to spend it. If Emily has a daughter someday, and in the fog of wedding prep someone says, "It's tradition," I hope she smiles and answers, "Here, tradition only shows up holding hands with a limit." And if some future Tyler raises a glass and jokes on someone else's dime, I hope she remembers that Saturday she wore white because her groom learned to swipe the right card. Friday at dusk, Nora and I sat on the porch. The sun spilled orange over Beachmont Avenue, and a breeze tickled the living room curtain. I toasted with lemonade, to the freedom a boundary gives. She laughed. "Who'd have thought boundary would sound like vacation?" I said, "When you carry mail your whole life, you learn to love lines. Straight lines, finish lines, address lines. And I went quiet, listening to some stubborn little bird repeat a short song, like a reminder that the good things slip in slow but stay. Some will keep saying I humiliated my daughter, that a father opens his wallet, shuts his mouth, and smiles for photos. That father isn't me. I'm the father who walked a whole city delivering to the right step, who knows a package without a number goes back, who learned with time and sweat that love without limits turns into a bill with no payer. At home that weekend, I delivered 3 things. I delivered a check for $2,500. I delivered a dress released by the owner of the right card. And I delivered most of all a backbone to my daughter, a yardstick to my son-in-law, and a note to myself. Love, when it has to, corrects the route. On the back cover of my blue notebook, I taped a copy of Case A91-433. For the day my memory fades and someone tries to rewrite what happened. Not to pick a fight, but for clarity. I like clarity. Right address, time respected, letter delivered, respect intact. And that lesson, sharp and good, became part of our story. Not carved in stone, but carried in the voice of someone who was there, still smelling new fabric, hearing staples bite down, feeling a manila envelope say more than 100 speeches. I, Frank Dalton, father, retired mailman, ordinary man, close that chapter with something no one can take. The peace of knowing that, in my house, love doesn't sign bills it hasn't read, and when it signs, it pays, and when it pays, it learns. And learning, it grows. It's a simple service like the post, and like that, it works best when you respect the zip. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts about the story in the comments. See you in the next one.